Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, probably the most entertaining marketing podcast you're going to put in your ears. I'm Jared Walls, associate producer and Stirista's creative copy manager. The goal of this podcast is to chat with industry leaders to get their take on the current challenges of the market, but also have a little fun along the way. In our first multi-guest episode, Vincent and Ajay catch up with returning guests Amin Makhani, Senior Vice President, Growth Strategy, Bento Box, Nick Panayi, CMO, and Amelia, and Karolina Kocalevski, VP of Global Head of Marketing Communications at Orion Innovation. They discuss innovations on the lead generation front, the biggest changes each organization has undertaken in the last year, as well as how each guest's role within their own company has shifted. Ajay buys a new laptop, and Vincent is feeling very special. Give it a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. It is me, Vincent Petrofesso. What does that mean? Well, it means it's the marketing stir, but not the regular marketing stir, a very, very special marketing stir. This is the first time in the marketing stir history. It's been like a year. Let me not get carried away here, right? But in the marketing stir history that we are doing a multi-guest podcast. Why? Because we've had so many amazing guests on so far. We said, let's bring some of them back and let's focus on a topic that people, you, the audience, would be interested in. And the first topic is something that I'm very much interested in because, of course, I'm the Vice President of B2B Products and Partnerships here at Stirista. And that is how the role of marketing and the expectations of B2B marketers are changing. And we have an amazing lineup of guests. I'm going to get to them first. But first, you know who's with me. Ladies and gentlemen, my CEO, Mr. Ajay Gupta. What's up, Ajay?
Hey, Vincent. To celebrate this occasion, I bought myself a new laptop. So
nice.
Coming across in high def now.
Come across in
upgrade.
I love it. I still have the Gateway 1000 that you guys gave me when I started. So I'm kidding. But that's awesome. You know, how's it working?
So far, so good. We'll see how it holds up in the podcast.
You'll be all right. You'll be all right. It is great to see you. Really quick, Stirista, the latest announcement. Amna, I love that. That just went out, ladies and gentlemen who are listening. Amna, it's our new identity graph. You'll see a cool video that just came out. Check out our page on LinkedIn or go to our website, stirista.com. Enough about that. Ajay, we've got a special one today.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be a historic moment for our podcast, which is nearing almost 100 recorded episodes already.
Yes, recorded and then releasing. You know, we've released over close to 70. We got a lot recorded. Something tells me we're going to move this one up. No offense to all the other guests out there, but we're going to move this one up. We have three amazing guests. Three of my favorite people in this industry. Four, if you count you, Ajay, I wouldn't leave you out, but three of my favorite people. Let me just go through first. Ladies and gentlemen, first, from Bento Box, the SVP Growth Strategy. That's a promotion, sir. Don't think I didn't notice that. We're going to talk about that. Amin Makhani is here. And then also Nick Panayi from Amelia, an IP soft company. You remember that episode? We had so much fun. Oh my goodness. And then my friend, hailing from the Bronx, ladies and gentlemen, Karolina Kocalevski from Orion Innovation. She's the Vice President, Global Head of Marketing and Communications, all in marketing. Nick is the CMO. I forgot to mention that. How dare I? He is the Chief Marketing Officer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special episode of the Marketing Stir.
Thanks for having us.
So great to
really excited to do this.
It's great to see you all again. It has been for some of us, right? It's been a few months. It's been almost maybe a year. I don't think it's been a year. We've talked to a lot of you, but let's start. I want to go to my friend Karolina, and then the rest of the group here, Nick and Amin. For those of you out there who hadn't listened to their individual episodes, I suggest you do. It's excellent, excellent content. I would love for you to give a brief overview of the company and your role for the audience. Let's start with Karolina, then let's go to Amin after.
Thank you, Vincent. Great to be here. So yes, I work in the B2B space for a company called Orion Innovation. Orion is a leading digital transformation and product development services firm. We deliver business transformation rooted in digital strategy, experience design, and engineering. We've been around for 25 years, we're quite a mature company, but we've tripled in growth over the last few years. So it's been a real rapid growth story for us. We went from 1,400 employees to 5,000 employees, and just in the last couple of years through a very aggressive growth strategy. Our clients are large enterprise clients, mostly across a number of verticals: professional services, telecommunications, life sciences, financial services. I joined 2 years ago as the head of marketing, and initially my role was to bring all of the companies that we've been acquiring all under one corporate brand umbrella. During that time, we shifted our go-to-market strategy to a strategy where we're focused on our large verticals, and with that I built a marketing operation where we could grow our existing accounts, bring in new accounts, and having been a small company for a long time, we really didn't have a very big marketing focus. So it's a new function to the company. Everything's up for grabs. We're doing things differently, and we are targeting into our key verticals now. So the ABM topic, perfect for us right now.
That's awesome. I love it. Thank you for that. And Amin, and don't think I didn't notice that promotion, sir. I love it. Come on. Tell us about that. Tell us about your new role
Sure.
at Bento Box, and tell people out there who are listening about Bento Box.
Yeah, first let me talk about Bento Box. Bento Box is a software business that focuses on the hospitality industry, restaurants. So it started as websites because restaurants had to either go through an agency where they had no control to get a nice design, or they had to do it themselves on Squarespace or Wix, and then it would be very difficult for the website to look nice or for people to access the things they needed or to add events. So it was a platform where we did it for you, but also you could update it on your own, and it was restaurant specific. So all of the features were what you wanted, and you could update it in an intuitive way. That's how the business got off the ground. But now it's really, our mission is to empower restaurants in their mission of hospitality. So anywhere that we can enlighten the engagement between the restaurant and the diner. So whether that's online ordering or gift cards or events management or making sure the websites are accessible, that they fit through the ADA guidelines. And so all those interactions between the diner and the restaurant is where we want to be, and that's the software. And so that's Bento Box. And then my role, I was running the growth marketing department, which is customer acquisition and also expansion. It's outbound as well. But as this year, we hit so many changes to the company, to the team, and I took on a lot of different hats in driving more orders for our customers, which is really more like a producty role. And then also I took on a finance role as we had a gap there. And so as I've been moving around the company in different roles, I think the CEO thought it made sense for me to move more in a role that's like the future, that's the strategy for the future of the business. The business has pivoted a lot in the last year. How can we keep doing that? And so that's how my role is shifted. Also, I'm going on parental leave in about 3-4 weeks. I have a baby on the way.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So that's great news all around. That's I did not know.
By the time this airs, I'll have I'll probably have a baby by the time.
Yeah, I think maybe not. Well, I think a couple weeks. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. And I think about every time I go to my Bubby's. It's a restaurant in New York City, which you live in New York City like me. I think of you because Bento Box pops up every time I click on it. That is awesome. And then finally, my friend Nick Panayi, Chief Marketing Officer of Amelia. So great to see you again, sir. Tell us a little bit about Amelia as well as your role.
Yeah. Thank you, Vincent. Thanks for having me. Great to see you guys again. So Amelia is a conversational AI enterprise software company. Conversational AI, for those of you who are not familiar, is what the name suggests. It's all about software that knows how people communicate and is able to reflect that same ability to communicate with humans. As you know, humans, we're a little messy in our communication style. You know, we change context, we have different accents, and we speak different languages, and we change our minds about something and we go back. Machines usually have a hard time understanding that, and that's where conversational AI comes in. So the ability to think and communicate as a human, and then our software then enables action. And also think about a call center environment where we call them digital employees. So instead of a human employee, you get a digital employee. Ours happens to be called Amelia. And Amelia converses with the customer, understands the intent, which is the most important part. Once she understands the intent, she takes action on behalf of the customer, whether it's canceling a credit card or getting the latest invoice sent to them. And then she closes the loop, right? So that's just a call center environment, IT help desk, HR help desk, especially all of us now being remote. A lot of companies are strained by the need to support more and more remote workers. People who never done VPN before, people who haven't set up their own home office video cameras and things like that before, they need a lot of help. So it's a technology that's very, very interesting. Again, AI is pretty hot right now. Conversational AI is the space we're in. I've been in the business for almost 2 years now, and I've come from large companies to small companies, but mostly in technology, and mostly in enterprise space, or at least definitely in B2B most of my career. So it's been a blast. We rebranded the company from IPsoft, which was the legacy business, to Amelia, and looking forward, we have some interesting inflection points ahead of us here in the near future. So next time we talk, we'll have some exciting news to share, I believe. So yeah, thanks for having me again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, all.
All right, great to see you guys. I go from talking to engineers where I'm the extrovert on the call, and then joining Vincent on podcasts where I feel like the biggest introvert. So it's like a hard balance. But one of the challenges that most companies are having now is with lead gen. A lot of the traditional sources like in-person conferences have gone away. So salespeople around the world seem to be frustrated, and others are frustrated with the LinkedIn messages they're getting, all of which seem pretty generic. So would love to know what you guys are doing for lead gen, and we'll start with Amin.
Oh yeah, sure, I'll go. I want to say something that I think I don't know how many people that follow your podcast are into that follow search advertising a lot, but there's some really interesting things in search. I know it's just like meat and potatoes kind of stuff, but in the past it was like search, you'd really focus on like certain exact match queries or maybe phrase match queries, and you'd bid on those and you'd get good ROI because you had narrowed set. But search is transforming. Google recently said that 15% of searches every day they've never seen before. It's a unique search term that has never been searched before. 15% every day. So if you go narrow, you can keep your ROI good. But if you go broad, you might unlock something that you didn't even know was possible in terms of volume. And I think that I think everyone is still catching up to this kind of thing. So if you, and I've been saying kind of, you got to break a few eggs to get an omelet, because you're going to get some wasted spend, and you're going to get some bad leads, and you're going to get some waste. It is, but it's a process to be able to like really grow your reach, especially in a time like this where it's sometimes harder. The search behavior is changing a lot. Search kind of queries are changing a lot. So just take a look at your search. You might find something there that you weren't expecting because of the behavior. Consumer behavior has changed so much in search in the last even 3-4 years, with voice, with mobile, just with the length of queries.
And then we'll go over to Nick next.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I've learned a lot just by hearing Amin here in the last few minutes. I will tell you, I will reflect the same thing in that search for us has been the best producer of qualified leads. Let's put it that way. So if the direct question is, what's the most effective tool for us, aside from organic traffic, which everyone understands, if somebody comes organically looking for you, you're more likely to get a better qualified lead. The next really tool for us is SEM. But I always caution all of my marketers and my teams to think about cross attribution and cross channel attribution. Marketing is not as simple as that. There's everything lifts some weight somewhere, whether it's some PR that they've seen before. So when they do a search, they see the name and something triggers in their head, oh, I've seen this company before, or the website that's looking, better than average. So that leaves an impression. So next time they do a search, again, they're likely to click on you. Don't forget, there's always competing dollars for those search terms. So it's not as simple as just buying those terms. You have to do all those other good things that we all need to do. But it's in terms of pure lead generation, that's the tool that we look to the most.
And then finally, Karolina.
Yeah, so we too, traditionally we hadn't spent a lot on Google search campaigns, but we've gone down that path through the pandemic, and it also is yielding some great results for us. Generally, we've been really focused on LinkedIn as our, for us, it's a complex sale, it's a solution sale, and we have a lot of followers. We've been growing our followers. A huge tactic in doing that is all the content that we've been putting out, very specific content around digital transformation topics, and our webinars. I mentioned that in the last podcast. We're continuing with those. We've rebranded them to Orion Talks now, and so Orion Talks, all formats. Now we're including more clients and prospects and them telling their stories of transformation. It's really them as the heroes, and we're finding that kind of content, which is a little bit longer form, people are very interested in hearing those stories. So it's been very successful for us, and it helps really get us some really good qualified leads. Beyond what search, the Google search program has been more around our technology products, our intellectual property, where we have something to demo. So we've utilized both strategies for the different types of products and services that we have.
And Karolina, I want to stay with you for a moment there. First, I want to let the audience know it's Orion Talks. Check out the webinar series. We've heard from so many podcast guests. One of the things they did differently over the last year was, we started, we did webinars, and normally our webinars used to get like 7 people, and now they're getting 300 people, and they're having to update the software that they even use their webinars on. So that's been great news. But Karolina, I want to stay with you and talk about tell the audience the primary targets or industries that Orion Innovation is going after. And has that changed in the last year?
Yeah, so our primary industries are professional services, financial services, telecommunications, and life sciences. We have a few others, but there are big verticals with some big clients and big transformations that are happening in those industries. It hasn't changed, but we have grown, and our domain depth is very strong in those areas. Our client expertise is very strong. So what that's done for us is that it's made us focus our messaging just around those verticals, because this is really where we're targeting. This is where we have clients, where we're doing cross-selling. Our capabilities have grown over the last year. Much as it was a pandemic, our company bought four companies all remotely. So it was very hairy for us. But if anything, what it's done is it's focused us on, look, this is where we need to tell our stories as marketers, because this is where the most painful transformations are happening, and where industries are really evolving very rapidly, and where the pandemic has actually impacted them in how they do their business. So we've been innovating with our clients and creating new intellectual property.
Thank you. And Nick, the same question for you. I'd love to understand, what targets you go after there, what type of companies that would be able to implement the artificial intelligence, and how's that changed over the last year for you?
No, it's a great question. And actually, that brings up an interesting point. I think sometimes companies tend to do well in certain industries at first. And then you get to thinking, well, these are our industries, so we focus here. So we try not to do that, right? Because there's other industries that we may not have had success yet because we simply haven't tried. So we're careful to kind of balance that, right? But traditionally, again, conversational AI comes in two flavors usually. It's an internal use case and an external use case. Internal use case is either IT help desk or HR help desk or something like that. Every company in every industry has an IT help desk and an HR help desk. So the variable there is really more one of size, because the bigger your scale, the bigger the value you get out of conversational AI. So that part of it is pretty horizontal. The end user use case, meaning supporting end user customers, that comes in industries that have a lot of customers. So traditionally, telecommunication, healthcare, finance, insurance, those have been the industries that have been the first, movers in that space, because they have thousands of customers, and therefore the value they get out of putting conversational AI in the call center, for example, increases exponentially.
Thank you for that. And I mean, now for you, I know, restaurants. I feel like restaurants, that's something that, you don't have to be a B2B marketer. You don't have to be a business professional. I think restaurants have the transformation, the closing down of some, all of that's affected everyone, right? Your local mom and pop shop, larger chains. What have you seen has been like kind of the biggest change in the last year with what restaurants are doing? Talk to me about that.
I think there's like specifics in the sense that ghost kitchens or cloud kitchens, or whatever you call them, the idea that you have a restaurant that doesn't necessarily exist on the ground, they only exist on food delivery sites or on the website, and you order from there and you can spin up. I mean, there's a range, right? So there's a restaurant that is like an individual mom and pop that opens a second brand, and the second brand only lives online. It has certain foods that are like better for delivery and takeout, and you kind of function as two separate brands with one parent, right? Then there's like the more like you're one kitchen or two kitchens in two places, and you're 10 brands of 10 different kinds of cuisines, and you kind of spin them up and down depending on the interest and velocity of order volume. Like, for example, you live in a place that has no Indian food in 30 miles, so you just turn your Italian kitchen into a ghost kitchen that also does Indian food, because like, oh, hey, there's a demand for this and no one's filling that demand. So I think that there's that of like kind of adaptation in general. Like, restaurants are adapting more to like the needs of the consumer, but then there's also just a willingness to embrace technology. And I think that there was a lot of restaurant owners who were kind of anti-technology, that they believed that technology took away from the experience between the guest and the restaurant, the diner and the restaurant, took away from the hospitality experience. And now you're seeing restaurant owners like embrace technology. Like, what technology can I use to solve this problem? Which I don't think was something that restaurant owners really, I don't think your average restaurateur ever approached a problem with like, what technology will solve this. And I think that today they're more willing to do so than they were. Partly, some of the older restaurants went out of business, new restaurants replaced, but also I think some of the even old school restaurant owners have changed their philosophy on this.
Yeah,
I can add something, in terms of much as we're still in the same industries, some of the changes we've noticed that are happening with them is that, if I can pick, financial services, for instance, that has exploded for us. There's been so many changes and things that the financial services industries had to accommodate for. They have legacy systems, and yet the needs of the consumer were to be a lot more digital, and their competitive scene changed as well. So with the new digital players, so we've noticed that there's been a lot of requests for streamlining of systems, the experience design. How are they designing for a better user experience? There's been the digital contactless payments that have all shifted in the last year for our clients. So a lot of technology, they're bringing in also, similar to some of our panelists here and the products and software that they have, they're bringing in bots to eliminate some of these repetitive processes. They're putting in those kinds of technologies, help desks. So there's been a lot of activity at financial services firms for us, for our clients and new clients, in actually expanding, to newer technologies that address a more seamless experience for their customer. So it's been slightly different for us, and we do have an experience design group now that really has been exploding in terms of how much we've had to grow them to address these kinds of shifts that are happening in our own clients.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that.
And Karolina, kind of following up on that, so one of the things we see is just B2B selling has changed, right? So because everybody tends to be more or less working from home, except for Vincent. But one of the, just as an example, we try to encourage our salespeople now to get cell phone numbers. And we see a direct correlation between having somebody's cell phone number to closing deals, just because it's that personal touch. And then you get to know your prospects' cats and dogs as they kind of walk around the screen as well. So have there been any changes in terms of how your marketing and sales team is going about with their B2B sales and marketing process as well, with people working from home in the pandemic?
Yeah, for us, I mean, it's been difficult for our sales guys. They're used to the face-to-face environment, and it has been a bit more virtual. But one thing that we've been able to leverage, just having large clients, is that every business function has their own technology problems. And once we've done work in one area, we've really had to understand what are the other personas across that massive client, get a referral in, so that they've learned to do the virtual selling just through virtue of having someone at that client that we've delivered for, and really digging into what's going on in other parts of the business where we could match some of our expertise and really help them out. So it's the sales process has shifted a little bit from that perspective, and really getting on a lot more Zooms. With marketing, I mean, we're very conscious of the fact that our B2B buyers are actually expecting a sleek experience as well, just like they're used to in their own personal lives. So as a consumer, so we've had to borrow things from the B2C world in terms of our own marketing. We use more videos, more compelling snackable content, and so we've been very conscious of that. We're not only selling experience design services to them and their clients, but we have to make sure that we too are attracting them in the same way and engaging with them in the same way.
I mean, how about you guys? Have you seen any big changes selling into restaurants?
It's a different thing, because it's like the restaurants are still like, cell phones always been this holy grail for us, because you call restaurants and the wait staff picks up or whatever. You're not going to get to the owner by calling a restaurant. I mean, you can, it's possible. It's hard though. And so like we've always needed to kind of get cell phone numbers in general. That's the thing. I think sometimes with like larger hospitality groups that have an actual office, they have an office, and then they have like, let's say 7 to 10 concepts that are restaurants. Those ones we used to be able to send stuff to the headquarters, but now like people aren't the headquarters anymore. So that's like some things on like the direct mail side. For the groups, we have trouble. For the restaurants, it's the same, right? Because you can just send it to the restaurant, someone will get it. And I think that's like, there's some stuff that's like, I feel lucky because I know some B2B have been using IP targeting for a while to get to ABM, to like get to serve at the headquarters using the reverse IP lookups. And we haven't been able to use that because the IP addresses of the restaurants aren't on those like demand-based databases. So like we've never been successful with those, but now nobody can be successful with those. So I feel a little bit better that, oh, I'm not the only one missing out.
And finally, Nick.
Yeah, I'll give you like a bit more of a general answer. The kind of changes that we've seen, I think one of them is, regardless B2B, B2C, and this is something that Karolina would probably appreciate, is the movement towards digital transformation has accelerated significantly, right? Because the pandemic has caused all of these problems that companies have had to come to the surface. You know, the lack of preparation for digital transformation. So where it was before kind of maybe we'll get to it when we get to it, to where we're going to digitally transform because that's the only way to survive going forward. So we're seeing that. What does that mean in buying behavior? Is that we're actually seeing more tolerance for risk in terms of customers who want to engage, but they want to do it with controlled risk, meaning a pilot or a proof of concept, which again, from a marketing standpoint, is a fantastic thing because gets you a foot in the door, right? And then from there, if you have the right sales organization and the right support organization, you can move further. So I think it brought us closer to our customers because they're leaning forward a little bit more than they were before. I will say I talked to a number of analyst firms, and I sit in on executive councils that we have with customers. They're so focused on customer experience as well. And again, depending on what it is that you market and sell, that is top of mind for them. So for us, that plays well into our model because we are all about customer experience through digital employees. But again, what does that mean? Well, it forces them to think about things that they weren't thinking about before. So they're a little bit more open-minded about that cutting edge of things than they were before, right? So they're more likely to experiment a little bit more. So that's a good thing for marketing, right? So we're able to go straight to, let's just do a pilot, especially in a SaaS world. It's, the risk is pretty manageable. So, and the final thing I will say is the buying committee that we all know about in B2B, the fact that it's not one person or two, it's 12, that number continues to grow. Because why? Because all of these things now are really bet the company kind of investments that they're making. So they want to have more people involved, more functions when they make some of these technology decisions. So we're seeing that the buying committee grow even more. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a thing, so you got more people to impress.
It's definitely a thing. I know I see that too on the because I think just maybe budgets are being looked at carefully, or you're really looking at different channels and the different dollars that you're putting efforts into. So yeah, that tends to have more people involved. But I think it's a good thing. I know there's a lot of salespeople out there listening who are like, wait, I want the least path to resistance. It's like, well, no, be happy that people are making better, I think, informed decisions. And, they're really looking at your whatever vendor or partner they choose carefully.
I think also part of it is like use cases are growing, where like one technology could be used for like not. It came to market with one use case, and now it's like, oh, this can actually be used a bunch of different ways. Even something as simple as ours, we used to be more a marketing product, but then with online ordering, there's a lot of ops component, in-store restaurant ops that are very important in online ordering. And so now it's like whoever's running the restaurant ops is really making this decision as much as the person who's running marketing. And those are two different people. So as you expand the use cases and the functionality and the different the buyer's going to grow. It does seem logical, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I want to stay with you because, we talked about how, as a group, how your different customers might have evolved, right? I would like to talk about personally within your job or as a company that you saw that you had to pivot this past year. And talk to me about that pivot. This is for the group. I want to start with you first, and then how you came out stronger because of it.
Well, one, I think that we were very lucky that we were working on an online ordering product that was like comparable, same level as the rest of the competitors in the space. And we didn't have to just like spin one, like, I don't know if you've followed any of the reservations companies, they spun up like online ordering products that were kind of just like hacks based on the reservations. Like, and it's like, not whatever, it's fine. You have to do what you do. But we were already we launched in February, which was like 1 month before, and we had a real product in market. So that was great. But I think we used to say that everyone needed to get the website first because that's the front door, and then you can buy the additional products. But once the pandemic hit, some restaurants like, I don't have time to do a new website, I just need some ordering software. And so we were able to pivot and start serving a larger group of restaurants that maybe weren't ready to switch websites yet. But I think that what that showed us was that we could solve a lot of problems, individual point solutions in the restaurant business, and then over time grow that business. But then having that allows us to get to people who maybe aren't thinking of their website brand as important as other customers. So like, sometimes you take your thing and you have a vision of what the customer should want and what is best for them, and they have a different vision. And when you can find a way to reach more unique types of customers because you're willing to like create a product that's for them, for their vision, I think that does a lot. And that's what we've seen.
Karolina, how about you?
We've noticed that companies are more willing to build their own proprietary platforms now. So again, we're in the larger enterprise space, and it's often a build versus buy decision that they're making. And somehow in the pandemic, I think, echoing what Nick said, there's more of a tolerance to take a bigger bet on how should we really do things. There's a lot to go and buy software off the shelf, for instance, and that's fine for a lot of purposes, but it won't always give them 100% of what they're looking for. So that there's a small sacrifice if they're willing to have that it's not perfect for them. We've noticed that there's more and more enterprises out there willing to build proprietary tech platforms for themselves, and that's the business we're into. So it's been a pleasant surprise for us, and it just goes to show that everyone is looking to do the right thing from a digital perspective now. That it's not necessarily stopgap. Oh, we had a pandemic. It has opened their eyes, like Nick was saying, and they're trying to have a vision for how are they going to be serving their clients better? What is the demand? How they're going to keep up with the digital demand? An example would be, tax preparers and the professional services space. There's got a lot more online clients now, and not so they really need to keep up with the volume. They need to keep up with the scale. And will they sacrifice to just buy what's out there, or will they build something? So people are investing more, and it's been a nice shift that we've noticed as well.
Thank you. Nick, the same question for you.
Yeah, no, just building on what Karolina was saying, one of the areas that we're seeing within this concept of leaning in and taking more risk, one of the areas that we've seen explode in a good way, and it's a shame that it takes a pandemic, but it is what it is how incoming requests are being managed, right? So call centers traditionally have been designed with a failover in other regions, meaning, okay, great, so if we overwhelm the US call center, we send traffic to India. Well, guess what? India is just as locked down as we are, and then people are in remote offices or remote locations, and they can't get to the same technology that they could before. So you pick your enterprise, you pick your industry. During the pandemic, you would call and you would get at least a half an hour wait time before you can talk to anyone. And sometimes 2-3 hours. That's not a problem. That's like an existential challenge. Problems are one thing to deal with. This is existential, right? So a lot of customers are now saying, okay, now that we're almost out of this thing, how do we rethink this entire customer experience cycle? So on the front end, sure, you can have a digital employee and you can answer the phone immediately, like the technology we have. But then the work that Karolina and her team do on the back end is just as important, because yeah, sure, you can take in the call faster, but then when you hand it off to the CRM system and the SAP system and the financials and all of that, is that digital transformation in place as well? So we're seeing customers who are now willing to take a harder look at their entire customer experience from beginning to end and look for digital transformation there. And I think that's going to be the next 2-3 years, even more worth of activity. This is not for the faint of heart. This is a significant restructuring of how companies do business. And I think that's, at the end of the day, it's a good thing for consumers, it's a good thing for businesses, but it's going to be 2 or 3 years worth of pain for a lot of them to get there.
Nick, a little bit more on the personal side. So has your role changed over the last year personally? And do you think it's a temporary or permanent shift?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, it has. I'm not going to bore you too much detail, but I will tell you, when I first joined the company, I wanted to be in the office, every day. The office happens to be in New York. I happen to be in Northern Virginia. So that basically meant, commuting to New York and then coming home for the weekends. And I did that for a year because I wanted to build it function and build it solid. And the company culturally was very much about in the office kind of a setting. Of course, then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden now that whole culture goes out the door because the whole company now is rethinking the way we do business. So I now do 1 week in New York, 2 weeks here. It's a better balance for me and for my family. And it's also, I think, a productive way to work going forward. And I find that my employees are feeling the same way. They no longer feel the pressure to be in the office. So my guidance to them is work from wherever you feel most productive and happiest, right? So if this week means 2 weeks here, 2 days in the office, 3 days at home, great. If next week it means 5 days at home because of whatever situation you have, whether you have children or some sort of other situation, great. Because at the end of the day, it's the outcome that we should measure, not the process of getting that outcome. So at the end of the day, you do fantastic work from the moon out. You can work from the moon. I don't really care. So I think a lot of customers, a lot of companies are rethinking that whole mentality. And I think we're going to end up in a better place. We're going to end up in a nice balance and let people work from wherever they feel most productive. So I think that's a a positive side effect of an otherwise very bad situation.
Karolina, same question for you.
Yeah, sure. So, how has the role changed? It definitely has changed. And I don't know that it was necessarily driven by the pandemic. When I was brought in, it was really a big focus on corporate marketing, building a brand, one unified brand, the various parts of our company coming together. And, we really celebrated when we got there, a new website, a new way of, engaging with our own clients and telling our story. But what's been the big surprise is that as we shifted our go-to-market strategy into these core verticals where we have a lot of clients, we have a lot of deep domain expertise, there's been an explosion in demand for marketing and for ABM marketing. So, that has been the surprise. We not only got our story straight from the corporate side, but we're now telling that story to others in those industries. And my own stakeholders are, everybody wants a webinar with their clients and their prospects. Everybody wants a video that's very compelling but short and snackable, but that tells a compelling story. Video infographics, a lot more help with the targeting that we're doing in that industry vertical. So the demand, a lot of the corporate marketing, the big work was done there, very, very time consuming global rollouts, but now a very quick, rapid shift into ABM marketing. And I think even inside our company, we've shifted from thinking that marketing is going to bring a lot of leads We did deliver a lot of leads in that year, but it's very difficult to send people chasing around leads when in reality we could be a lot more strategic about it, and we can really think about who else can we help that's like this client, and where else are these challenges happening, and really be a lot more strategic that way. So that's what the account-based marketing framework is forcing us to do. Take a look at our existing clients. Where can we, like our panelists, like Nick was saying, where can we take one use case for a technology we just rolled out, and what are other functions possibly at that company that we can augment those products a little bit, and use it and roll it out there. So that's the kind of strategic thinking we've had to do around who our clients are, who are other target prospects, and what kind of marketing and messages can we create so that it makes it easier for them to understand what we can do for them. So huge explosion on the ABM side. We're really just pedaling super fast to keep up with all of our stakeholders, and it's been a nice shift for us.
And Amin, finally for you, I know stand-up comedy has been affected.
Yeah. It's funny is I was going to quit the game like 2 weeks before the pandemic, and then the pandemic quit me, so I didn't. I think the open mic might be back. Are mics back? Do you know?
I don't know. My first live performance is May 1st. So this will probably air from that.
Where is it?
I'll be at Greenwich Village Comedy Club.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
or Grizzly Pear Comedy Club too. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I think I'm starting to get emails from people being like, I'd like to do the mic on Tuesday. And I'm like,
yeah.
Like, open? Why
it's
are
like
you
Mike. Yeah, no, I don't think comedy clubs
are
are going to open just for the mics.
I don't think they're going to open for the mics, but maybe. Yeah, so there's that. But no, this is like more kind of a macro thing. And I don't know how it's going to look long term, but there is and we're seeing this with both our customers, but also at our own business, it's just kind of like labor shortages, where there is a lot of especially in tech, there's a lot of fast growing companies that are just swapping up salespeople and marketers and tech and engineers and product people and even G&A folks. And so I think that there is a little bit more, if you're at a fast growing company, even more than before, you might have to wear a couple hats more than you used to have to wear. And that's what's happened to me. And I think that, I think one thing that's good about that is that, at least for marketers, if you end up doing it, I'm doing some finance work, which is probably not exactly common, but still I can kind of bring that lens to marketing about ROI on marketing spend, that they don't kind of look, they might look at a channel basis like, oh, this channel is not performing what I need, but well, if you turned it off, everything would come down, the other channels would perform worse. And so we can run that experiment, but you have to be ready for the revenue risks to it. And I think that framing that has allowed it to be more interactive conversation, rather than you got to turn the stuff off because it's not performing, because and then you're like, yeah, we can turn it off. We'll prove if it does stuff, And I think that that my role has expanded based on kind of missing gaps in the company. But I think that's going to happen a lot over the next handful of years, as the economy grows a little bit faster than jobs are available, a little bit faster than people have the skills to fill all the jobs that are needed probably over the next couple of years, especially in these so you read a thing every day. You read a company raised $200 million. It's it's turning into a kind of a very common occurrence, and they're going to deploy that money. So I think that's going to happen a lot.
No, I appreciate all those thoughts. And then, we're almost out of time. That's how, what happens when you get great people together and people that we know and friends. So let me just go around, quick, questions. ABM, Nick, I always think of you, when ABM, just because of our past conversations on it. Can you touch a little bit about what you think kind of the future of ABM is going to look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll build up on something that Amin just said, because I think it's very important. I think marketers in general are like doctors, right? So a doctor doesn't go into their specialty before they understand how the rest of the body works. So it's the same thing with marketers. They need to have that kind of general understanding of all the functions, frankly, in marketing and around the rest of the business before they focus on the specialization. So ABM is one of those functions, right? you don't throw just an average marketer in ABM. ABM is for the stars. So the ones that have potential, the ones that understand how to work with sales, the ones that understand how marketing works in general, they become ABMers because the ABMer is supposed to be a mini CMO, as we talked about, right? For you to be the conduit between the sales team and the marketplace, you need to be a mini CMO. You can't just be a single track marketer. So that's number one. Number two, I believe very strongly that the best instance of ABM is truly a single account, right? So one of the things that has become an interesting discussion point when I talk to marketers is some people use ABM as a general term to discuss segment marketing, like 5 accounts, 10 accounts. Well, guess what? It's 10 of them. It's not one. So they're not alike. No, even if they're in the same zip code, the same industry, the same size, they're not alike. ABM is one-on-one. So to that end, I believe strongly that pursuit marketing is a subset of the ABM discipline that's going to continue to gain a lot of traction. And pursuit meaning your strategic deals. Why? Because that's when sales pays most attention. Sales pays most attention when their personal wallet is being impacted. And if that quarter or that year is on the line because of that big deal that you're about to go close, you're going to pay a lot more attention to the ABMer who's working with you to help you close and penetrate that deal. So I think pursuit marketing is a subset of ABM, is going to continue to pick up speed. But overall, ABM is just one of those areas you simply can't ignore anymore. It's going to be more and more an area that people invest in.
Karolina, final question for you. What are some of the trends you think are happening in B2B as we go into 2022?
Yeah, I think what we're hoping for anyway is that we're seeing better technology come out. You know, a lot of the technology has been exploding in this space, and it's been difficult to kind of know what really could we be using. I think that some of the promise of the technology in marketing falls a little short, but that's where I think that the next generation of tech that comes out for the space is really going to help us have a more of a 360-degree view of our own B2B clients, know more about them, understand those personas, so that, you know, when we do these one-to-one account-based marketing programs for that account, we really understand who the players are at that account and really what is important to them, because we don't have, none of us have perfect information. You know, we understand a little bit by aligning with our sales teams and seeing what they know, but the rest, you know, what can technology do for us? And I think that we're seeing better stuff come out, and I think that's the future. I think when someone really creates technology that can really help us understand these clients, these potential clients and prospects from a personal persona perspective, we'll come far. So we're looking forward to that.
Thank you. And I mean, just quickly about, you know, some of the, you think, future trends for the restaurant industry.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I think that like this is something that will, I mean, I don't know, we'll see how it works, but I think you'll see some of the like contactless, some of the menu stuff, the QR code, payments. I think you'll see some adoption of that post-COVID, not for health and safety, but for capturing email addresses and marketing and loyalty programs. And right now you're seeing some companies like Wingstop and Chipotle that are just doing phenomenal things with marketing technology that is just like ahead of the game, and they're getting 50, 60, 70% of their orders online, and they're building more loyal customers, and they can get them to come back with app notifications. And your mom and pops can't do all of that yet, but they can partner with technology firms to get closer. And I think that you're going to see that in the next year or two, is that people think about, oh, we use this in the pandemic for pandemic reasons, but now we can use them for business reasons unrelated to the pandemic.
No, I appreciate it. And I just want to thank the three of you for joining us on the first of our multi-guest series. This has been absolutely amazing. I can't wait until, there's a week when Nick, you're here in New York, Karolina comes down from the Bronx, Amin comes in from Brooklyn, and we all can get together. And this has just been amazing. I truly want to thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, these guests again, Amin Makhani from Bento Box, Nick Panayi from Amelia, Karolina Kocalevski from Orion Innovation. I'm Vincent Petrofessa. That's Ajay Gupta. This is The Marketing Stir. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like, rate, and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, email us at info@themarketingstir.com. And thanks for listening.